So welcome back to the show, and now I have the privilege to have Marianne Williamson with me. Hi Marianne, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm very, very good. And you know, Marianne, it's really a pleasure to have you here because you are one of the ladies that I really admire the most in the world.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to hear you say that.
Thank you very much. So Marianne, for people who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about you, about your life, and how you came to be who you are today?
Well, in the 1970s, I began reading a set of books called A Course in Miracles. And A Course in Miracles is not a religion. It is a psychological training based on universal spiritual themes. And it's been translated into most of the languages of the world. So in 1983, I began teaching small classes on the principles in A Course in Miracles, and that has grown over the years. And I published my first book in 1992 called A Return to Love, Reflections on Principles in A Course in Miracles. And I've since published 9 other books and had the privilege of speaking both throughout the United States and elsewhere. And that's pretty much my life. I have founded a couple of nonprofit organizations as well. One, a Meals on Wheels program feeding homebound people with AIDS in the Los Angeles area, and one establishing a grassroots Department of Peace campaign, a piece of legislation that was introduced here in the United States for an executive-level department that would articulate and facilitate nonviolent approaches to domestic and international conflicts.
Wow, that's kind of amazing, especially the two non-profit that you have created, which seems to be really, really what people need now, and they really need this kind of kindness and this kind of compassion from other people to help them.
I agree.
Yeah, it's for some people it's really tough, and it's great when we can help them. So when you found this Course in Miracle, how was your life? Because I remember reading this book, and it says when you are ready, you will get this information. So I guess that you will have to be ready to be able to get this information and really take what was good for you in this course.
Well, my life at that time was, I think, very typical of someone in their 20s, particularly at that time. I was sort of all over the place. I had a lot of yearning, but a lot of it was inchoate, a lot of what I felt were abilities, but I didn't know what to do with them. I think the 20s were a very difficult decade. But I had always been interested in comparative religion and philosophy, and those were the days when everybody was reading Alan Watts and doing the I Ching, but at the same time I had studied Western philosophical traditions as well. So I was always interested in notions of non-material realities and non-material sources of help and meaning in our lives. When I picked up the Course in Miracles, everything sort of came together in a way that I had not found elsewhere. In that, the Course in Miracles stressed to me, in the way I read it, that the key lay in my relationship with other people. That spiritual sustenance was not just out there in principle, but that the essence of it was whether or not I opened my heart to the person standing in front of me or the person I was thinking of. That was the truth, that was the key, and that was the experience, not just the belief, but the experience of God. And that revolutionized everything for me. Not to say that is always easy to practice, either then or now, but that the peace you feel when you do achieve that, to me makes it clear, this is it. Do I bless or do I blame the person in front of me? Do I accept or do I judge the person in front of me? Do I forgive or do I hold on to my grievance against the person in front of me? How I answer that question totally determines how my life will unfold and how my feelings, my experience of my life will unfold.
So it is really at every moment you have this question in your minds, and you really did make a decision of how you're going to see other people that are in your experience at this time.
Well, this decision is something that we need to make every moment. You make that decision, and then the next moment you make another decision. I don't really ascribe to the eureka theory of enlightenment, that all of a sudden you see it, and from that moment on you're like an enlightened master. I go through the same things now that I went through when I was a young woman, which is I know I should open my heart. I know I should be more compassionate. I know I should be going from this moment forward. And hopefully, I certainly hope I'm better at it now than I was before. But I'm no total perfect enlightened master, and I realize on any given day, in any given situation, that it's a choice to be made moment by moment. Where are you going to come from? Are you going to come from an open heart or from a closed heart? And that's something that is a path that is sometimes fairly easy and sometimes can be quite hard.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. Sometimes it can be quite hard because there are sometimes in life there are some events that make us react, and when we are reacting, it can be quite easy to judge other people, or simply to get angry. You know.
Absolutely, and then when you multiply this on a collective level, you're into the realm of real horror, war, and so forth.
Yeah, and I must say that I listened to your recording of A Return to Love when my life was at quite a very low in my own experience, and it was so soothing to hear you talking about love. But also, love is something that people don't really understand. Well, what is your definition of love, really?
Well, I don't think that love can be rationally understood, and I don't think it can be defined. You know, in A Course in Miracles, it says, this course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. The course aims at removing the obstacles to the awareness of love's presence. You know, if you walk into a hospital room or into a home where a baby was just born, and you see the mother and the father with their arms around their baby for the first time. Now, I don't know how you would define that, but everybody on this planet knows what it is. And when you see nations warring against each other, you see atrocities, you see the horrors of war, you know what that is too. So I'm not sure that sitting around trying to define these things is as helpful as recognizing that we recognize them and we know what they are. To say that something cannot be adequately verbalized is not to say that it does not exist.
Yeah, okay, I completely understand this. Yeah, and so it is really feeling it, and then, as you said, it's having an open heart, open your heart. But this is something that sometimes can be quite difficult, especially for men. I'm talking about the men's side of things here. To open your heart, to love, to give, and also to be open, to be vulnerable at this time.
Well, what the ego mind says is that if I open my heart, I will be vulnerable to hurt. And what we come to understand through spiritual principle is that if I don't open my heart, I will be hurt. That in my vulnerability, in my defenselessness, actually is where my safety lies. And in my defensiveness, putting up a wall, constricting my heart, that is where I'm actually inviting danger. Because, as it says in A Course in Miracles, we create what we defend against. You know, if I feel that someone has hurt me and I'm not going to let you hurt me, right? I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to have my dukes up and you're not going to hurt me. I'm actually closing off the valve by which you would feel compassion towards me. And you would then be, therefore, more likely to hurt me, not less.
Mm-hmm. Completely, yeah. And I understand this because then you will just feel that you have to respond or react to whatever anger, whatever closeness, as you said, is
right.
I'm facing. You know, so I'm facing a wall, and then I want to hit this wall because it's
right.
just in my way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so the Course of Miracle was really for you your turning point, and since then, everything that you have created in your life, so all the books you've written and everything you're talking about, it's all based on this teaching that you had in this Course of Miracle and how you apply this in your life.
You know, I believe there is one truth with a capital T, and it's spoken in many different ways. And so whether I'm using the language of the Course in Miracles in any given moment or any given sentence or even any given book, my understanding of universal truth and spirit is based on that teaching.
So, what would you define as your biggest challenge in your life and your biggest lesson in your life?
My biggest challenge in my life,
Except going over this cough.
yeah, my biggest challenge in my life is the same as everybody's, which is transcending any aspects of myself that would keep me bound in fear. And the biggest lesson in my life is learning how to do that. You know, the Course in Miracles says you think you have many different problems, but you really only have one, and that is your separation from God. You know, we think we have all kinds of different issues, and the Western mind is very, very connected to that. It is very convinced, for instance, in the Western psychotherapeutic tradition, you analyze your problems in order to fix them. But the Eastern spiritual traditions go in a different direction. They move in the direction of going for God, and as you seek God and move towards the God within you, all that is not essentially you will drop. And that mystical perspective attracts me much more. That is not the form of my problem that matters. It's learning to live at a place, a higher place within your own consciousness, where those energies, which all do emanate from that place where, for whatever reason, you're not yourself, you were knocked out of yourself. We all had childhoods. That is what all of us are dealing with on a daily basis. You've said several times, even in this call, reactiveness. When we react instead of respond. Well, that nails it for me entirely. When I react to life with that closed heart, with that fear, with that anger, as opposed to responding with love, mercy, and compassion. And as we've already said, sometimes it's easier said than done. But like everyone else I know, that is my biggest challenge, and like everyone else I know, that is my biggest lesson.
So this means that if we really want to have a life that is more open and more fulfilling and happier and with more peace, it is really for us to learn to, as you say, transcend this fear.
The Course in Miracles says that every emotion that is not love is derived from fear, because fear is the absence of love, just as darkness is the absence of light. So, for instance, if you're angry, the question becomes, what are you afraid of? If you're annoyed, what are you afraid of? If you're controlling, what are you afraid of? And you see that those emotions always stem from some place in you where you're afraid of something. And the Course in Miracles says that love to fear is the same relationship as light to dark. When you turn on one, the other disappears. So you don't so much try to dismantle your fear as you replace it with love.
Okay, so you replace it with love. But if we go now to a very concrete fear that people have, which is a fear of not having enough money, let's say, or to have their house taken away, or something that is material here. That's a fear that people can have for their families, for themselves, and so on. So how can they respond to this?
You know, the Course in Miracles says that enlightenment is a shift from body identification to spirit identification. In the realm of the body, there is scarcity. In the realm of the mortal body drama, you can lose your house. But in the realm of spirit, you live in infinite abundance. And to the extent that we associate and identify ourselves with the realm of the infinite and the infinitely abundant, rather than the realm of the finite, then the entire universe opens up into realms of greater possibility and breakthrough, not only in terms of ideas we might have, in terms of our energy, ideas we might have of new business ventures, ideas we might have of new ways to create wealth for ourselves, breakthroughs in the energy that we carry into any job interviews. Once we know that we are children of an infinite loving creator, and in that there is no lack, then a law of divine compensation is activated, and in ways that we might not be able to rationally predict, new opportunities to help us keep that house simply emerge from out of the blue. Now, that is not to say that there are not within this world, real forces and forces of injustice and forces of unfairness, both in my country and in other countries, that are at the root of these problems. But even then, that root is once again lack of love for our fellow man. So, on one hand, our first task is to transcend lower laws by no longer vibrating at the level of that thinking, and then to make sure that we keep ourselves in the higher law by thinking of other people who are lost as we were once lost.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's really first in our mind and in our heart to feel the fact that we are a higher being, and then to shift our beliefs to really embody this.
Absolutely, but it takes a spiritual practice to do this. This is what prayer does. This is what meditation does. This is what spiritual practice does. It's not just an intellectual shift. It can't just be, oh, I'm a child of an infinite universe, therefore my bills will get paid, ha 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 ha, la-di-da. It's not simple or simplistic like that. It's knowing that if I meditate in the morning, literally, as I shift my brain wave patterns through meditation and through prayer, for instance, that the universe literally is recalibrated and reprogrammed to suit my needs.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so meditation is one of your daily practice, and you do every
Absolutely,
morning.
And I would say the most important one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm practicing it too, so that's why I just wanted to reinforce this. When you don't meditate, let's say if one day you forget to meditate, how is your day very different then?
I am more likely, as you were saying before, to be reactive. I am more likely to work out my stress dysfunctionally, snapping at someone, taking an attitude that is not the most loving. You know, it's funny, before this phone call, I saw an email from my daughter. I adore my daughter. She's absolutely fabulous. I'm very proud and delighted mother. But something as small as a way my daughter did her hair, and I was not thinking it was beautiful, right? And I worked out a way to tell her without coming across insulting or coming across in any way unloving when she asked me how her hair was. Well, you know, if I was in a stressed place and I was in a hurry, I might make some snarky comment like, oh, please, you're going to wear that? No, it sounds like such a small thing. But these are the little energy shifts that make all the difference when they accumulate and they become bigger. It's one thing to get it wrong when you're talking to your daughter. How about when you're talking to an employee or an employer? I mean, the ways that we have of honing our internal energies and skills so that we might show up with the angels of our better nature. This is at the root of of determining how our lives unfold.
Yeah, and quieting your mind is really the key for this, because you can then at this moment really connect with your higher being and then be in this place where whatever happens, you know that you are bigger than whatever happens.
And higher being within others, for instance. Because when you get it wrong, for instance, let's take with my daughter, if I made in any way a comment that she felt to be insulting or unkind, then that would affect my relationship with her. So as the Course in Miracles says, people hear you on the level that you speak to them from. So when we are out of our spiritual center, it's not just our own experience, but then that affects other people's experiences of us, which then affects our relationship with them, which then affects the lives that we live.
Mm-hmm. Completely, yeah. Because I'm kind of smiling because I'm a single dad, and my daughter is with me most of the time, and but she is the one making these snotty remarks, as you say, and I am the one trying to not react.
Well,
to this.
how old is she?
She's 11, but she's beautiful.
Oh yeah. Oh, good luck. There's some rocky years, so absolutely learning how not to be reactive to a teenager when they're in one of those teenager moods, or you're not even at that bigger place yet. My prayers are with you.
Thank you. That's very encouraging. I'm looking forward for the next years. No, but I found out that in fact she is my best teacher, because even if she knows exactly which button to press and how to make me react and so on. I now managed to shift my own thinking about, oh, she needs me to be here for her and to send her love. And that changed everything.
Well, the Course in Miracles says that anything that anyone shows us that is not love should be interpreted as a call for love. Because in that moment, obviously, they couldn't find their love. They couldn't find their conscious connection to their love, or they would have shown it to us.
Yeah, completely. And I know sometimes she's seeking this, and she's, of course, doing this in a very graceful way, which is being angry at me or shouting at me. And then I would just send her love, and she will sometimes say, oh, you know what, Daddy? I don't like when you're doing this, and I like it at the same time. So she can feel this, and then everything shifts. And instead of having a big drama, everything just changes within minutes. Yeah. Which is beautiful, isn't it?
Yes, it is. There's nothing like having children.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, to learn and also to really train ourselves to give love, because that's really our best way of doing this.
No doubt.
Yeah. So to go back to people and when they are really fearful about what's happening in their lives today, and especially with money, because money is this thing that is coming over and over and over every day, because every day you are facing this, or every day you have bills coming, or you have to pay something. What kind of tips can you give people when they are in this mode where they have to pay something and they are kind of feeling very stingy at this moment?
Well, we need a miracle. The first line in the Course in Miracles that there is no order of difficulty in miracles, and to place all situations in the hands of God. That which is placed on the altar has been altered. If I realize the altar is in my mind and I place a problem on the altar to God in my mind, that is the same thing as saying I place in God's hands my thinking about this situation. And sometimes we have very constricted ideas about where money can come from, or where money does come from. And this is not in any way to minimize or to diminish or to invalidate the very real problems that we have, particularly given the recession that has taken over so much of our societies today. But it is to say that through a force that is greater than this world, we can be lifted above old circumstances and old situations. And so the most powerful thing you can do in any situation of lack is to pray for a miracle.
Okay. And okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I understand this completely intellectually, and I understand miracles can happen to anybody except me. So how can I shift this?
Well, that is an error, obviously, in your thinking. I mean, if the law of gravity applies to everybody, that means it applies to you too. If the laws of thermodynamics apply to everybody, that means it applies to you too. If anybody can walk out into the sunlight, the sun is going to shine on them, regardless who you are. So there are objective, discernible laws of internal experience, just as there are objective, discernible laws of external experience. No one can pray for a miracle and not receive one. That doesn't mean they receive it necessarily in the form that they wanted it, but the miracle is a shift in perception, a shift in how you're seeing a situation and how you're thinking about a situation, and then that determines how you experience the situation. So when you say, I believe that it's possible for everyone but you, what you believe there doesn't really matter. You could not believe in the force of gravity, but if you drop a book, I assure you it will fall, whether you believe it will fall or not. So sometimes I say to people, you don't have to believe it, just say the prayer and watch what happens. Because prayer is the medium of miracles. And I can't pray for a miracle in any situation without my mind being open in a way that it would have been closed before.
Okay. And when you're saying prayer, it's really like you're doing prayers in a church, so you're really praying God or the universe. No, prayer, I love the way they say in Alcoholics Anonymous in the 12 steps, they say, God as you understand him. And prayer certainly doesn't have to be in a church. Prayer happens inside our hearts, where we acknowledge that there is a higher power than our own, where we acknowledge that there is a power in us, but not of us, that can do for us what we cannot do for ourselves. Okay. And that inner activity is the most powerful action that we can take. And then after, it's really to expect this. It's not only saying the prayer, but then also to be in this state of expectations?
It is very powerful to consider the possibility of infinite possibility. Yes, part of the work is letting go our limited beliefs in what's possible. For instance, money is an example. If you think money only comes from a particular source, and you lose your job that provided it from that source, and you think that that job was the source of all your money, then that belief will keep you, in terms of time, from openness to all the many ways that money can come into your life. It might not come from the place you thought it came from, but that job was not the source of your money. God was the source of your money. An infinitely abundant universe was the source of your money. Now, if I think I only got it from that job and I lost that job, then I'm in a rough spot. But if I realize, well, the money came from God, then I open myself in any moment to know, okay, where it's going to come from next, because the universe knows what my needs are. And the universe is programmed to provide me with everything necessary to be lifted into my highest, most creative possibility.
Okay. And if the universe knows exactly your needs, does it sometimes really restrict what is giving to you just so that you are in this state of becoming more of yourself?
Are you asking me whether or not we have to specifically ask the universe for what we want?
No, I was asking is sometimes the universe will not give us exactly what we want, but just enough to live so that we have this kind of hunger, if you want, to become more.
That's right. You know, there's that famous song from the Rolling Stones, you don't always get what you want, but if you try, you just might find you get what you need. You know, if you really open yourself to a mystical perspective on life, you realize that every situation is offering you something. Every situation is offering something that you can use to become more the person that you are capable of being, and the more you are, the more you can have. Because the more you are, which means the more open your heart is, which means the more open you are to receive, which means the more easily the universe can get in.
Okay, and so it's really also allowing the receiving, because you said that open to receive here.
Yes, I did. And I think that that's very important, because if I think that my good has to come only from one source, then by definition I'm closing my mind to receptivity to other places where my good could come. And many times we do that. We judge situations and therefore block the opportunity that situation might otherwise provide us to have all the things that we want, because we think, oh, it wouldn't come from there. You never know where it might come from. And there is a law of divine compensation, which posits that the universe can always find new forms by which to deliver abundance. You know, there's a famous story about the painter Matisse. When Henri Matisse had arthritis so bad in his fingers that he couldn't hold a paintbrush anymore, he discovered that by using his grandchildren's scissors, little children's scissors, that he could cut their the paper, the colored paper that they were using, the art paper they were using. And what that did was the beginning of what is now considered one of Matisse's most famous periods of his artwork, the paper cutouts of Henri Matisse. So he couldn't hold his paintbrush anymore, but he could navigate a scissors. The fact that he couldn't hold a paintbrush what was diminished was the ability of his fingers, but his genius was not diminished. His artistic genius was not diminished, and so the artistic genius, which is non-material, simply created for itself another form through which to express.
So does this mean that sometimes we have these kind of challenges which we can take them, if you're open, as you said before, to the possibilities of another way of expressing ourselves, as long as we won't serve. Yeah.
Absolutely, and the fact that you use the phrase another way. Of course, the miracle says salvation begins when we consider the possibility that there might be another way. And then all of our societies, too, are going to have to figure out another way to organize our civilization so that these kind of economic problems, which are growing among everyone but the very, very rich, we have to move in another way as an entire civilization. The other way we need to move into is putting humanitarian principles before economic principles. Otherwise, the income inequality in our nations and on our planet will become unsustainable.
Yeah, I agree with you. The system has reached some level of, I would say, a judgment here of stupidity that is really hurting everybody currently.
Absolutely, and some of the hurt is, it's to the point of death. When you have 17,000 children dying of hunger, you have 1 billion people on the planet living on, and that's every day that those children die of hunger. That's not every year. That's every day. And when you have 1 billion people on the planet living on $1 and $1.25 and less a day, this is beyond unfair. It's immoral.
So what do you think that people should do then in this situation? Because it's quite difficult at the individual level to be able to do something except maybe contribute or help. But will this make a difference?
Well, I think that there is an uprising of consciousness that's going on the planet today. And one era is passing. It's not working. And we are living in a time of both disintegration and rebirth. And I think every individual has to ask for our own internal guidance, how we can best step forward and be part of the change. The first thing we have to do is, along the line of what you were talking about, make sure that we ourselves are lifted up enough beyond the constrictions and limitations of our own past. And then as we see these miraculous changes happen in our lives, then offer ourselves in service to the collective for ways that we can help in making those same kinds of changes in the world around us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but when you're using the word service, as you said, which is serving, in fact, some people may still see you as very weak in this condition.
Well, if they do, then that is their lack of understanding. That is the issue. I mean, when we see serving one another as weakness and making war with one another's strength, there's a deep failure of understanding that does not lie with the person who serves.
So this means that you said that this current system we have today is arriving to an end, more or less. This means that there will be a lot of more difficult time ahead first before something better will be able to emerge, or do you think that there could be a smooth transition from one to the other?
I think that is up to us. The Course in Miracles says it is not up to you what you learn. It is merely up to you whether you learn through joy or through pain. If we continue the way we are, it is reasonable to assume that there is pain up ahead. If we emerge into a morphic field of collective wisdom, which I believe is possible, then we will take another route, and there will be much less human suffering on the way to this new era. The answer lies in your hands and mine.
So it means that everybody listening to this show, if everybody will really start to embrace their own divinity here and shine to their own light, who they really are, and together we could make this transition far easier.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, you said that the Course in Miracles said that we can go through joy or through pain. Usually change is associated with pain, or you need to experience what we call the contrast or the polarity of a situation. But also you said through joy. So which means that sometimes you can change without having to experience this contrast?
I think that's a very important issue. People talk about how pain produces change, but so does joy. So does ecstasy. So does bliss. So because most of us have experienced so much pain, we look at that and go, well, the pain produces change. Yes, but the issue is we haven't experienced enough bliss, joy, and peace to recognize how much that produces change as well. So the issue is up to us. It's not like a joyful life doesn't transform you. An ecstatic, blissful experience of life does transform you, but most of us have had so little of it compared to how much pain we've had that we don't recognize its power to transform us.
Yeah, because usually people are saying that in order to change, you need to experience, you need to be either satiated or either experience enough pain so that you take the action in order to change.
Yeah, well, that's someone that's someone talking who hasn't had enough joy.
Okay. I will not mention who,
like,
who said this. I don't think it's fair. But I found that in my own experience, this is also what needed to happen, so that I was just living my life comfortably, but without any big joy. But when I had the biggest pain in my life, that's when I decided to move up here.
Mm-hmm. Where do you live now?
I'm living in Dublin, in Ireland. which is a beautiful country, by the way. And I know that you will be coming to, it's a good transition, so you will be coming to Ireland in a few months, on the 25th
Yes, and I'm
of
very
April.
excited about it, too. I look forward to being there again.
Yeah, I think that people will be very excited to see you also. But you are going to come to London first, then to Ireland, and then to...
Yes. Do you have the schedule there? Did they send you all the material for when I'm where?
Yeah, I have all the material, and I will make this available. But I think that you are in Dublin the 25th of April.
Yes.
And in London a little bit before. I'm just going to check this here.
I speak on the 28th. I don't know, do you have it there? Because I don't want to get this wrong. I think I speak on the 23rd and on the 28th, and I'm in Birmingham on the 21st, something along those lines. Do you have it there?
That's correct. The 21st you're in Birmingham, 23rd and in London.
Alternatives in London, and then the 28th.
Yeah, and 25th, which is a Wednesday in Dublin.
In Dublin, yes.
Yeah. I think that you came to Dublin already before, yeah?
Yes, I have, 2 or 3 times. I always love it when I'm in Dublin, and who's not fascinated by Ireland? So
yeah, I agree with you, and that's why I'm in this country, even if I'm French. But I just love it. Yeah. So you will be talking about a return to love when you're coming to the UK and to Ireland. What is in this talk? What are you going to talk about?
Well, I don't think so much at this point that people come to my lectures and hear something that they don't already know. We've all read the same books and listened to the same tapes by now. I think we are entering the generation of contemporary speakers is entering a new phase now, where the era of data collection is over. We are moving into into a new depth of application, really stepping up our own practice, both in purifying our own lives of the selfishness and the greed and the anger and the hatred that sometimes have found a home in our own consciousness, and also we are discovering new ways that collectively we can express love and forgiveness and generosity and compassion in the world around us. So this is an extremely significant moment where we have a critical mass of people who understand how transformation operates, transformation of an individual life, so that we can begin on a whole new level with that transformational process of our countries and of our world.
You're talking about transformation here. Does this mean that, and you said that the time of gathering data is over. So it means that now is really the time that we should shine of who we really are and really express it to the world around us. Absolutely
what I mean. That it's not enough to just keep these spiritual treasures to ourselves. They are meant to be shared, and in a very deep way, the only way you can keep spiritual wisdom and keep spiritual power is by giving it away.
Mm-hmm. And but we're going to go back a little bit at the start of the interview when you said that it's not really always easy to be able to do this. So it's really for people to do this, to put this in practice every single day, and to feel it more and more on a daily basis, and then to be able to express this. Yes, moment by moment. It's a decision we make every moment. Every moment we make a decision between thoughts of love or thoughts of fear. And the decision that we make affects ourselves and affects everyone around us. And it's as though there are 2 parallel universes. And one universe is a place of inner peace, then that produces outer peace. And one universe is a place of lack of inner peace or internal war. And internal wars result in external wars. And that's the choice for every individual, and at this point, our collective identities as well. A world at peace or a world at war? That's a question to ask about your own internal life. Am I a world at peace or a world at war? And our external life, are we a world at peace or are we a world at war? Yeah, and sometimes it's quite difficult to do this, to choose peace. I know that you said that every moment we can have this affirmation in our mind, which is coming from the Course of Miracles also. I choose peace instead of whatever happens in our life or whatever we could react as. But it is sometimes difficult just to have this microsecond of awareness or consciousness to be able to make this decision or even ask the question. Yes, but that's why meditation in the morning is so important, because the ego mind speaks first and the ego mind speaks loudest.
when I have quieted my mind through prayer and meditation in the morning, then I put myself in touch with that small, still voice for God that can guide me and keep me from my reactive mind.
Okay. And how do you meditate, really? You are just going to a very, very silent place with yourself, or do you have a process that you follow?
Well, I'm a student of A Course in Miracles, so I definitely, the workbook of A Course in Miracles, every day there is a particular lesson that we are taught to do, and it acts as a kind of mantra. So that is what I do as a Course in Miracles student, but there's also transcendental meditation, which I do sometimes. There are many different forms of meditation. The point is to find yours and to do it.
Mm-hmm. But really to do it every single day. It's really to clear our own clutter and
And then you think from a different place, and you act from a different place, and you feel from a different place.
But people are saying that sometimes they don't have time to meditate. They say that this is something that they can't
Yes,
do.
well, do they have time to take a shower? Do they have time to brush their teeth? Do they have time to eat? You ultimately come to understand that it is as important to your well-being as is anything else that you do. And not only that, but time itself is part of the illusion, as Einstein said. So when you meditate, you literally have more time. The shallower our thoughts, the quicker time goes. The deeper our thoughts, the more slowly we can dwell with time.
Yeah, completely. And I just want to add something to what you said here, is that if people don't have to take the 5 minutes or 10 minutes to meditate, usually the drama that we create in our life after will take hours, if not days, to sort out. And they could not appear if we decided to meditate and just be in a different place when this happens. Completely. So you said you're still a student of the Course of Miracles, so it means that you are still doing this study on a daily basis?
Oh, yes. It's like physical exercise. You never get to the point where you like the result and you don't have to do it anymore. I mean, this is something that is lifetime. You ate yesterday and you're going to have to eat tomorrow. You exercised yesterday, you're going to have to exercise tomorrow. You meditated yesterday and you're going to have to meditate tomorrow. You never get to stop this stuff.
Yeah, but that's the one stuff that people tend to stop as soon as they don't see the result, or as soon as they see result, and that's a shame. Yeah. So persistence is something also very, very important in raising our own consciousness and awareness. Yeah, that's great. So it was it was great talking to you today.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it, and I look forward to. Hopefully, I will meet you when I'm in Ireland, and I wish you the very best. And even though you come from France, obviously, right?
Yeah, you notice the accent.
Even though you don't live in France, because of the Oscars last night, France is what everybody's talking about this morning because of the artists and the Oscars that went to French people last night. So, vive la France today, even if I'm in the United States and you're in Ireland, vive la France in terms of its artistic contribution today.
Yeah, can you see a little bit the funny side of this? Is that it was a movie where there was no dialogues, no accent and nothing, and that's why the French were kind of recognized here. That's why French were what? Recognized by an Oscar. Well, yes, because obviously if we don't hear when it's a French film and French dialogue, it would be the same as for someone in another language, hearing American dialogue. It's it would be considered just a foreign film. But that's the beauty of the film too. It doesn't matter what language you speak. Its brilliance was that it was beyond words. So yeah, I mean, I don't see that as irony. I see that as like, well, yeah, but what are we? Should it have been otherwise? I mean, I'm not quite sure. Not quite sure neither. So okay, so thank you very much for being here. And thank you. If people want to get in contact with your work and what you're doing, please by going to Marianne.com, which is a very easy website to find. And yes, and my Facebook and my Twitter. So yes, thank you, please. And if people would like to be on my email list, they can do that at Marianne.com. Okay, I will put all the links on my blog, and people can find you. Thank you so much. All my best. You're very welcome. Thank you. Bye. Bye.